Hello, I'm Georgia Broaders and I'm going to talk to you about Beyond Flesh, which is my final degree show. As a starting point, I looked at the body and with the lens of ancient Vedic tradition and also traditional Chinese medicine. I was interested in capturing or reflecting the inner energy of the body through process of yoga and getting people into different yoga positions and tracing around the form that was created. I tried out a series of different postures and each were corresponding to different parts of the body. I was most interested in the shape that was created from Balasana, which is child pose. So I set about drawing around as many different people of different shapes, sizes as possible. This then led to two different branches of the show. I'll talk about the Soak Stain series firstly. I used a process where I had unprimed canvas, raw canvas, and oil paint, which I watered down with linseed oil and turpentine. And this allowed me to move the paint more freely on the unprimed canvas. So the canvas was laid on the floor, and after I traced the shape, I would then pour the paint on to the canvas and use a roller to move the paint. And I wanted to create a bleed around the edge of the shape. And this sort of hinted to me of a bodily fluid or an aura. Colour was really important in the Soak Stain series, and I plan to do 7 according to the 7 chakras in the body. And these have a 1-to-1 dimension, so they're the same size as a human. And I wanted these to be displayed on the wall and hung. And so, yeah, there was 7 of these. The other branch of the Beyond Flesh series is the sculptures. And these were investigated through the same shape, and I had maquette form which were on the wall, and I started to just play with the dimensions of it by taking the edges and using string to bind. And there was something then that moved from 2-dimension to 3-dimension, and I moved it from the vertical on the wall to the horizontal plane, and was really interested in the physicality of the shape. There was something about that spoke of the physicality of the body. I then wanted to explore the material, and it was important that it was organic in relationship to the body again. And so I looked at fabrics and tested different ones, but the one that aesthetically was the most it translated what I was trying to embody of the inner energy was the fine weave muslin. So I layered this around a cylindrical shape using PVA glue, and it's a very fragile and transparent material, but it held the structure in quite a sharp way, which I found quite interesting. So there's a sort of interplay between the hard edge, but also the softness or the fragility of the fabric. And there was a language that I was trying to articulate of the inner energy through the soft and fragile fabric. The edges I kept frayed, and again this was important to hint at a worn journey of the energy. The other aspect to the sculpture series was the figures that I drew in oil paint, and there was a process then from the outer figuration. So just behind me you can see some outer figurative drawings or paintings, and I shredded these and then re-knotted them in macrame. And this took on a new process of outer figuration to an inner abstraction, as the new knotted canvas resembled the intestines. And this again was a language for me to explore. So I placed the intestine-shaped canvas within the shell of the muslin. And there was something about the relationship between the two that I found was reflecting what I was trying to capture of the body. So there's different ways that my work could be read in a space, and I was interested in bridging the gap between it being painting, sculpture, installation, but also with an aspect of performative as well through the movement of bodies in the yoga and then the tracing around of the shape. I was also interested in the vertical and the horizontal plane and the relationship in space between the two. It's an ongoing process, and since leaving the studio in Middlesex, I've tried out different materials just because that's what I've had with me. But I can show you, as I'm here in the studio, some of the shells that I've got in the space. So I've got 3 of the shells hanging in the space here, just to give you an idea of the size, the dimension. So the physicality of the structure was particularly important, and also the size, so that they would hint at them being bodily in terms of size. The metal frame is one that I created post lockdown because it was what I had. But initially it was much more important for things to be organic rather than metal. But I started to explore the relationship between the two materials here. This is a paper maquette that was saved from the studio, and the one on the end has got the shell, and this is the structure that most translates into what I was looking to achieve for the outer shell. So the other aspect that I want to just illustrate through this is the relationship between the vertical here and also with the horizontal. So there's an interplay between space and there being perhaps a sort of shadow aspect or a reflection with the sculptures on the floor. This one I made again post-lockdown, and it was all I had, the interface, but the way it moves, it wasn't what I was looking to achieve. The muslin took the frame of the structure much more successfully, but yeah, just using this as a guide for what I would have done for the final show.